Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're having a special conversation today, like on the heels of the holidays. And as we insert ourselves into the new year of 2026, there are some things that we get to talk about, right? So, the title of our panel discussion today is called Creating Safety in a World That's Hungry for Truth. We have some amazing professionals here who are ready to speak on this topic from their professional lens and also from a personal one. Okay, we are living in a time where truth is often delivered maybe loudly or quickly, and we can feel the energy of rush. We can feel that maybe some people are just either not in their giving self in their nervous systems when they're speaking, or if we're talking to someone, they're not in their receiving self in their nervous system on their end. And today what we're going to do is we are going to explore where lived experiences really matter. And also where we get to really honor discernment and compassion and understand that they are not weaknesses, that they are actually wisdom. Okay, so we have two people here who have inspired this conversation in different ways, and I'd love to invite you both to share what this conversation means for you as we continue to dive into this healing topic. So Deborah, thank you so much for just allowing us to come together in the name of psychological safety. What does that look like in your world, and how are we going to explore it today?
Thank you. I started out with a personal reflection, and I think it's because I understand that the personal and the systemic are interconnected, even if they can show up a little differently. And so for me, I'm realizing now, no matter what it is I do in my work or with any other person, relationality is most important. And how can we feel that we're really in relationship with someone if we don't feel safe with them? It's kind of like a 101. And so I've found this to be the case with every aspect of life, that when we put performance before safety, we run into trouble. And that's literally business as usual. Like every aspect of our world has become more performance focused because of the profit imperative than safety first. And then also, we're also very confused about what safety is. And so I'm really hoping that today in this discussion, we can, explore our relationship with safety, what it is, what it isn't, and how we cultivate it for others and how we cultivate it for ourselves. So it's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Deborah. Lorna, will you kindly also share your intention and inspiration for being here?
My pleasure. And it is an absolute pleasure to be part of this wonderful group of knowledgeable and caring and compassionate women. And I have to build on Deborah's statement, if I may, saying that we often have groups such as these where we can create our own safety and a sense of validation and a sense of oneness. Who would have known that both Deborah and myself, who we have never met to my knowledge, had a similar orientation and understanding about something that we needed to talk about, something that we need to address. I mentioned to Kai some time ago that I had received an anonymous note from a person during the holiday season who was going through, I would say, in many respects, a crisis. One in which that despite the frenetic quality of the holiday celebrations and all of the good things and the buying presents and all of the things that we do that are appropriate. And by the way, I'm not coming across as a Scrooge, but reminding everyone of how we create this particular time. And in that anonymous note, the woman talked to me about feeling so alone and isolated at this time. And it was a reminder of a male friend that I had some years ago that said to me that every holiday he spent having meals in Howard Johnson restaurants alone. So I think that in talking about creating safety, we have to look at not only the beauty of the holidays, the beauty of all the things that we experience, time with family, time with friends, uh, and it is indeed a beautiful time. But there are many, many, many people among us where this is a time where they don't feel particularly safe. And what is our responsibility as human, part of a humankind, part of a relationship that we have with others? What is our responsibility? Do we have a responsibility? Uh, Oftentimes, you've heard the phrase, "Am I brother?" and in this case, sister's keeper. And indeed, I think as a human being, I think I not think, I know I have a responsibility to maybe reach out to people that don't have friends and family during this time, or that they're feeling particularly isolated or alone, when in fact, we're hoping to have this as a time where we feel very safe, where we feel very warm, we feel very secure, having family and friends around us.
Incredible. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Let's get introduced to our other panelists as well. By the way, if you want to check out who everybody is here, you can also friend them on Facebook or LinkedIn, or check out, where it is that they're coming from. They've got links underneath their names. Feel free to go check it out. We've got authors here. We've got coaches here. There's so much to offer on your, and I'll borrow this phrase from Lorna, on your healing path. Our first question, so that we can get to know everyone through our panel questions today, is, can you share a moment when you realized that safety was missing in a space that perhaps you were either leading or participating in, and maybe how your body knew before your mind did, because that happens often, and perhaps what it taught you about presence and responsibility? And I'd love to pick on Ellie, because I personally know that Ellie has had experiences that she can share to this effect. If you would be so kind, Ellie, to share.
Thank you so much, Kai. I am so happy to be here and joining this powerful conversation. I would say the first time that I realized safety was missing was in my own personal life. Having a history of physical abuse since very little, I did not feel safe to be alive. Um, Moreover, more so, being safe in different spaces. And so growing up with that kind of trauma, sometimes going to people and trying to find help and feeling invalidated about what I was feeling was one of the first experiences that told me that I had to create a safe space for myself. And it is the first reason, it is the fundamental reason why I create a safe space with the people that I talk to. A lot of times we have people coming over, or, I've heard this story many times where people uh, try to find help and their needs are bypassed or not acknowledged or not validated. And so I think it is very, very important to meet people where they are in the moment. And although we know that nobody's broken, sometimes people feel broken. And I think it's very, very important to validate what the person is feeling and create a safe space so that the person can build from there. And so definitely my personal story is what brought me here. And it's what makes me really passionate about what I do.
Thank you so much, Ellie. I like the pauses that we're able to embrace here too, that we're not, filling every space with words. That to me feels like safety manifesting itself in this space. So I do want to acknowledge that and acknowledge you all for facilitating that. And would anyone else like to share?
Well, I don't mind sharing another interesting experience I had, and this is we all, I think, have pivotal moments in our lives, and a pivotal moment I had in my life, I think I must have been between 10 and 12. My father, who was an expert tax accountant, would do tax returns for people. And often they didn't have the money to pay him, so they would give him things, all sorts of different things, and things that he kept and things that he would share. He shared with me a pictorial essay regarding the infamous Tombs Jail in New York City. I think it's still open, but it was a horrific place. And this particular pictorial essay was focused on women that were in this tombs, called the tombs. And keep in mind, they might have been in there for very, shall I say, minor uh, infractions. But maybe they didn't have bail. Maybe they didn't have legal representation. But it was just horrific in terms of the lack of toilet facilities, the ambiance. It was just awful. I pored over that pictorial essay over and over and over. I looked at it. I felt something as I looked at the experiences of the women, and I would say, in terms of safety, they were very unsafe in that particular horrific jail. And it was then, I think, that it was imprinted upon me, or maybe it just helped to open up this aspect of me of wanting to help and wanting to do something for these women in the prison, and in many ways seeing that as my pathway, uh, my career, my professional, my spiritual pathway, which, as you know, many of you that know me, has continued to present.
Thank you, Lorna. Go ahead, Danny. You're up.
I was just you felt that. Thank you. I was gonna say, for me, I don't think I understood what safety was. I think maybe it was there, and I didn't realize it wasn't until I was in a space where it was. And it helped me really see where safety had not been held in my life, and maybe I had bypassed it for just that's just the way life is, or that's just the way things are. And so for me, entering into spaces when I was in corporate training for a while, and creating containers for people to come and do work, was where I think I really started to see where the safety wasn't being held, and it was in a space where I was leading. And it became this awareness for me, and I think that was a very pivotal moment for me in realizing safety, where safety is and how safety can show up, and where safety isn't, or where it hadn't been in my life up to that point. And it was where that shift for me of leaving that corporate environment and moving into something different really stemmed from, because I could see where it was the ideas in that space was very much teach people a skill, right? And not necessarily looking at the person as a whole, and just keep pushing them to do certain things. And it didn't really create, at least from the perception I could see at that time, it wasn't really creating safety. And so then that became unsafe for me, right? To be in that space where I was creating a space that didn't feel safe. And it helped me start to understand and start to unpack a lot of the years that I didn't have safety, and some big pivotal moments in my life where I didn't have safety. So I think for me, it was really in the space of not realizing that there wasn't safety, and then being in a space as I was on my own healing journey and kind of noticing things where somebody did create that space for me, that then I started to see all the ways in which other spaces were not safe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. And would you like to share next?
Me? Absolutely. My head is like swimming right now. I would really love to like pose the question to people to answer internally, even, what does safety mean to you? Because that's such an amazing, the perspective is going to be vast, you know. I don't recall really understanding what safety meant at all to me, except I knew that there was a weird feeling in my stomach that just felt sick and really upset all the time. And then it was really, which is what drove me to write my memoir and be so passionate about sharing it, is I didn't want anybody else to feel alone. So the connection and the inclusion, vastly important to me. So when I think of the word safety, what it means for me is going to be so different than what it means for Lorna. And I think it's so important for us all as human beings, not even just light seekers, right? But as a human being, to extend a hand and like just kind of saying it in ourselves, you know, I see you, you matter, you're safe. We don't even have to articulate that, you know? So it's such a powerful question. I love this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for presencing the definition, right? Because as Deborah was saying earlier, some people may have collapsed the definition of safety with perhaps something else.
Yeah.
Deborah, actually, would you like to speak into that a little bit more around how we can create meaning around safety for ourselves as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would love to. I feel very passionately about this. And there are three things that I notice that people mistake safety for. And one of them is agreement. So if you agree with me, then I'm safe with you. Another thing is, you could say niceness, kindness, politeness. Those words are kind of also often mistaken for safety. And then the other is, and I think you have it mentioned in one of your questions, is a sense of control. And so these are three areas where people think, I'm safe if they're agreeing with me. I'm safe if they're nice. I'm safe if I feel like I'm in control of what's going on of my experience. And they can factor in from time to time, but I'm going to give you my definition of safety. It's very, very simple. It's actually coming from, what's her name? Amy Edmondson, who really was one of the first women to really pioneer this idea of psychological safety. And that is, you are able to be honest without fear of negative repercussions. Right? It's just about being honest about where you are, honest about what you're observing. And it's that understanding that environment is welcoming of your honesty. That's really all safety is. So if you haven't heard it, there's a key connection between honesty and safety. I would so much rather you tell me something I'm not thrilled about, but I know it's honest for you, then you tell me what you think I want to hear. And then later on, I realize, that really wasn't true for you. That's, there's getting people to realize it sometimes is hard because we've all been punished for being honest. All of us have been, most environments that we enter into in our modern world are naturally psychologically unsafe. Like, that's the default. So when we feel something like, I get to say what's honestly happening, my experience, and no one's giving me a hard time about it, like, that's an exception. That's not the norm, unfortunately. So And yet, when people embrace honesty, genuine honesty, first of all, again, it starts with you, because if you don't know how to be honest with yourself, you cannot be honest with other people. But when you learn how to be honest with yourself, which requires a lack of an agenda, a lack of judgment, a lack of needing for any part of yourself to be anywhere other than where it actually is. I'm pausing to let that land because this is an experiment I am going deeper and deeper and deeper into. When we don't need any part of ourselves to be anywhere other than where that part of us is, that part is far more likely to be honest with us. And when we can be honest internally, then we start to attract more honesty externally. And it's a loving and gentle and compassionate practice. So yes, I'm very firm believer in really anchoring in honesty, because truly, and again, it's not the brutal honesty. It's not this like tough love kind of thing. It's just being able to be okay with what is in this moment, just presencing that. And that gives people around you this amazing sense of safety that they can now be honest about where they really are. And it's a beautiful experience.
Thank you for that. I'm learning something here. And Danny, did you want to add something in as well?
No, I was just going to say I 100% agree with you, Deborah. Like that is key in any time we are creating safety, not only for ourselves, but for whoever, and many of us work with others, right? Creating that safety for them as well as being able, because I might not have the same perspective. I might not agree, right? I might not always agree with what my client decisions, they've made, but I can still hold that space and create that safety for them in allowing them to be where they are and say what they feel and, lay it all out, the good, the bad, and the not very pretty, so that they can get it out of their own self and analyze it and see it for their own selves. And I think that's beauty in that definition, that simple definition, but yet how powerful that is for us. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Yes. And I'd like to build on something that Danny said in terms of our clientele, our colleagues, our friends, and the extent to which this concept or this sense, this energy of safety is so different. One of the things that I talked about in the publication of my recent book, Straight Talk, is the extent to which I did not feel safe in lots of different venues. And one of my colleagues, who I cherish very much, Luann, she won't mind me sharing this. She said, and she happens to be a white woman, she said, Lorna, I want to read your book because I want to understand how it is that you feel unsafe in certain situations. And I thought that was a spot on comment, because she wanted to have that, first of all, that she was empathetic enough to understand that there were situations in which, many, by the way, that I felt unsafe. And Deborah, you might end up sending me back to therapy, because I'm starting to think about all of the different situations that I feel unsafe. And it's such a fait accompli, a matter of being, that I perhaps I don't even recognize it as such. That, oh, when I go into a certain neighborhood, or when I'm in a store and I see somebody following me because they think I'm going to steal something because I'm a Black woman, that it's such a regular and ongoing matter that I don't recognize it. Yet I believe as was pointed out, I think, in our discussion, that it does have an impact on our mind, body, and spirit, creating a sense that we might have of being unsafe. And what do those assaults, uh, how do they impact us on a day-to-day basis? And are we in a situation in which we don't fully recognize that although we feel fine and dandy, that there may be many among us that don't feel safe and don't have this sense, this internal sense? Because I think safety is very much an internal way of being. We could be in a crowd of people and feel very safe, or we could be in a crowd of people and feel very unsafe. And last but not least, I want to just throw out something to my colleagues if they're not aware of it, and also to the participants, excuse me, to take a look at an old book by a excellent social worker, Leon Chestang. And he said, we ought to begin to understand how people interact with various parts of their environment and to see which environment is nurturing and sustaining and uplifting, and which environments are not so sustaining. And if we begin to look at how people manage themselves in these different environments, it can tell us a lot about the extent to which they don't feel safe, and that their nurturing environment is one that they call to or they move towards in order to obtain the kind of safety that they need in order to thrive.
Go ahead, Anne.
No, I just totally resonate everything she just said.
Thank you.
Right.
I have one thing to add that I forgot, which is another way that people think safety is defined is by proximity. So it's like, oh, we're really close friends, and then now we're not as close anymore, and I don't feel safe to be myself. And I'm like, well, they're not exactly the same thing, because as we're growing and developing, if we're being honest, we may realize, I used to always say I liked Cheerios, but now I realize I really don't like Cheerios. Is it okay for me to not want to hang out with you at a Cheerio party anymore? Does it mean that I love you any less? Does it mean that you're not safe to love Cheerios? No, right? But it's like, again, these are the things that get us intertwined in these very sticky dynamics with each other, because we don't know how to be like, it's okay if you're not as close to me. It doesn't mean I love you less. It doesn't mean that either of us are less safe. But as we're growing and becoming more and more honest and truthful and peeling back the layers of all the masks that we've put on throughout our lives, we may realize that we may not have as much in common with each other as we used to. Is that a crime, right? It's when we criminalize our growth and our honesty that we end up, again, trapping ourselves in patterns of unsafety. And I just wanted to bring that forward because it was circling there, and something that Lorna said brought it back to mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, because a lot of what you're saying, it may not occur to people. It may not occur to people ever, that they've compromised, their truth and their integrity and their honesty in these ways. So I just really appreciate the way that you articulated that. And I'm also noticing here in this conversation that we're pointing to the what, right? The what could be, dishonesty. The what, could be that safety is absent. And I'm so curious to dive into the how. Like, how do we start to allow more humanity back into the room and into the conversation as leaders, and also as people who are participating in a space that's being facilitated? Like, how can we do that? I'm starting to get really curious here. Would anyone like to pick this one up?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. I really think ultimately the how begins with us. I mean, we have so much in our favor when it comes to safety in situational situations, or in family or work or whatever have you, and it really is rooted deep in our intuition. So if we feel unsafe, we do have an opportunity to dive into that and try to determine and uncover, is this something that innately is just telling me, hey, this situation or this person or this whatever have you? Because once again, safety is situational, it's perspective, it's a number of different things. It's not just one entity. But really, kind of leaning back, that's where the work is, right? And I realized that if I didn't do the work, if I didn't spend decades on myself doing the work, everything would be unsafe. Every place I went would be unsafe. You know what I mean? But now today, in the world that I'm in, I'm deeply rooted in the work still. And I'm very, very intuitive. And I can, if I feel something is unsafe, I can pause for a minute and try to determine why. What is it? Is it uncomfortable or is it unsafe? So I really do think it's within us. We're all individuals for a reason. So what's for me is going to be different for everybody, but if we don't get in tune with ourselves, the whole world's unsafe.
Good point. Good point, Ellie.
Yes, I would like to, I totally agree with Anne. And one thing that I think is very important is the energetical aspect of what we do. And I think, just like Anne said, it all starts with us. And I read this little message one time. I don't know who is it by, but it said something like, we can only meet people to the depth that we have explored ourselves. And so the amount, or to the level that we cultivate safety for ourselves, is proportional to the amount of safety that we can provide to another person when we sit with them. And so that practice, that daily practice, is so important to cultivate our own safety, self-love, and all of those important aspects that then are transferred energetically to the other person.
Indeed. Yes, Lorna.
You are intuitive. I think that, and I know that we are uniquely positioned to be advocates, not only for ourselves, but for the people that we care about, whether they are clients or patients or however we see them. And that we need to be able to call out this lack of safety when we see it, perhaps advocating for others, even in this particular environment, we feel very safe. Some of my work as a spiritual practitioner has to do with the Spiritualist National Union. And I have worked very much with that group around the lack of diversity, not only in the history of the organization and how they see the various pioneers in spiritual practice, but the present day work that is going on and the lack of diversity in the present work. Now, you may say, where are you going with this, Lorna? Diversity, safety, all this, but it's related. It's very much related. It's related because many of the students that would attend programs by this organization wouldn't feel particularly safe. Why? Because they were the only person of color in the group, or perhaps there was lack of a welcoming environment by the leaders, whoever was in leadership, teaching various things. So what I say to kind of throw things out here is we have to call these situations out when we see them, even if perhaps it isn't the politically appropriate way of looking at things or talking about things. Or I think we have a moral and ethical responsibilities as seers, as spiritual folks, as people that purport wanting to help others, that when we see this type of thing, this lack of safety, even if we feel very safe, we're very comfortable, we're okay. But when we see it, we need to bring it to the attention of those in charge, and seek a response, seek a way of resolving this kind of situation. Because the way I look at it, if we all don't feel safe in a situation, is this is something that has to be looked at and has to be addressed, even if 3/4 or 99% of the people feel safe.
Thank you. I think that one of the words that came to me when you were just talking about was inclusivity, right? With the 99.9%, and then just, creating some space for that 0.1 is important, and it matters. Wow. This was a very quick hour that has passed us by, and let's end with something really that we can really get something from. I'd love to ask Deborah if you could lead us off with this question, with your permission. How do you stay connected to your nervous system while witnessing others' trauma, grief, anger, or especially like when you're expected to lead with clarity? And then also, will you let us know where it is that we can find you and interact with you on the internet and out in the world?
Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful. So there's something that's called the Reset Room, which we're going to enjoy in a minute, which is a beautiful group practice of what we call parts work. So I use the tool internal family systems because it's one of the most compassionate frames I have found yet, to help people to explore what's going on with their parts. So, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm going to this dinner party and a part of me is excited and a part of me is terrified because I don't want to talk to all these people. Those are our parts, right? Those are different aspects of ourselves. And so we have all these beautiful, multifaceted personalities within us. It's a whole world within us that often we have not been encouraged to explore. Or, sometimes you hear the parts work, it's like, tell the part to be quiet. And, but what I'm really about is engaging with a part. So sometimes I'll even be in a conversation and I'll notice some things, and then I'll just notice what's going on inside of my own body. I'm like, oh, felt some heat there. Okay, somebody's upset. Let me just, but it's done from a place of observation and not judgment. And so what happens is then I can often, not always, but often I can share in that space. I'm just noticing this is coming up for me right now. So I'm actually creating safety for myself, or expanding it, and also creating safety for them to be like, oh, yeah, I was feeling uncomfortable too, but I wasn't going to say anything, so that's one thing that I do, is just noticing what's showing up in my body, because often there's some sort of physical sensation or something that cues me that one of my parts needs attention. And so that's one thing that I do on a frequent basis. And then I'll just say really quickly, just it ties in with your previous question as well. When we create spaces for community, it is really important that there's some way of someone being able to voice a complaint or voice a concern privately and be heard and feel heard and have their concerns genuinely taken to heart. I will say that is one of the biggest things I see that most community leaders could do better. I know how many times usually I come in and I find something and I'll be like, you know what, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. And it's rare that I actually get that actually gets received and with the intention, you don't have to, again, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to change anything, but can you actually receive what I'm sharing in honesty? So anyway, those were the two things. And then finally, in terms of how to find me, my handle is The Real Deborah A, all together. On LinkedIn is my primary playhouse, but I also am on Facebook and Instagram, so you can find me on any of those platforms. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. And will you kindly chime in on our final question, which is, how do you stay connected while witnessing others, and also where people can find you?
Yeah. I mean, I love this question because it's a continuous practice. It's not a technique that I arrived at. I have to continuously practice. If somebody is sharing, or I'm doing a workshop, or someone I'm coaching is either telling me or sharing a story that I might instantly in my body really relate to, and I can begin to feel it, I have to catch myself. I grab a couple of breaths and remind myself that I'm present for their share and not my own. It's not about my reaction. It's about what they're saying. And I also, something else I learned that is very difficult to practice is I instantly want to help. I'm the oldest of 8, so I'll tell you everything you need to know about how I operate. I want to help. I want to hug. I want to take away pain. And that is the worst thing I can do. So the practice is in staying present, staying connected, and just being there. And I think that is so, I know it is so incredibly important because I've been on the receiving end, and that's what I valued most, is somebody that saw me and didn't try to fix me. Hugely important. So all of my links are on my website. It's my name, annpeshka.com. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I also love this question. When you asked in the beginning, you mentioned something really important, and it's the nervous system, because I think that is the root of a lot of things for us. And if we want to feel safe in our body, there's a lot of work that we have to do to reset or recalibrate our nervous system on an ongoing basis. Like, this is a work that never ends, really. And so there are many practices that have helped me along the way, and that I really, really recommend to continue to do that inner work, which is also something really important. Somebody recently asked me, can you recommend me 3 things to stay recalibrated? And I said, yeah, 3 things. Do the inner work. Number 2, do the inner work. And number 3, do the inner work. Everything comes from there. Everything comes from all the patterns that you're able to observe within yourself, from all the emotions that you're able to rewire within yourself, and little by little reprogram yourself. And so for me, meditation, I cannot say it enough. I mean, meditation completely transformed my life. And over time, it helped my nervous system feel safe. And it helped me, therefore, feel safe to be me, to be alive first, and then to be me, to be the authentic expression that I want to be in this world. And so meditation does a whole lot for you. There are practices like tapping. You would be surprised how tapping can calm your nervous system when you are going through an anxious moment, or any chaotic moment in your life. Just a 10-minute tapping session can really just help you return back to yourself. And I mean, there's so many things I could mention, from eating well, but I think the inner work it's really, really, really the key here to cultivate all of those things so that you can offer everything that you want to offer to other people. And so, yeah, I will summarize it with that. And in terms of where people can find me, you can check out my Facebook page, Ellie Santana. You can check out my website, elliesantana.com. I am on Instagram, ellie.soulprints. And I think, and I'm on LinkedIn, Ellie Santana as well. And thank you so, so much. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Ellie. Much appreciated.
All right. Well, here's the thing. So first off, I love, Deborah, that you brought up parts work. I love parts work. And something a little similar that I do anytime I enter a conversation. So I did it before I entered this conversation today. But anytime I'm doing any client work or having a conversation with somebody, I always want to make sure that I'm present for that conversation. And so I am a big believer in befriending your ego. I don't believe in banishing the ego. I don't believe in getting rid of the ego. The ego is your friend. The ego is my amigo. And so because of that, I invite my ego in and I tell my ego, I always task my ego because she loves to be tasked with things to do. So I tell her, hey, ego, if anything in this conversation is something that I need to look at, is something that is for me to look further into, if I get triggered by something, if something causes me some type of disruption within, then come back to me, hold that information and bring it back to me at the perfect time and place where I can step into this. And so usually between calls or something that I might be doing, my ego will usually bring it back to me so I can jot it down and maybe look at it at another time, or they'll give it to me at that time when I'm in meditation, as Ellie was just saying, where I can further dive into that. And so for me, it's just a simple thing of saying, okay, ego, I know something might come up, and great, here's what I need you to do. And it just helps me kind of separate from that and know that I can be present. I can be here in the conversation with whoever it is that I'm in a conversation with, and let that come back at a later time. I would also agree with everything everybody else said. I think the inner work is probably the best place to begin. And so I do have what I call a 7-minute daily reset that you can find on that link there that is in the chat, and it helps you connect internally to what is going on within you. It's a really good grounding, and it really helps you see what is going on in both in all three, actually, your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body, to see what is wanting to come forward, so you know where you're at and how to fulfill that need that is present before you're entering any type of situation. Maybe it's your day, maybe it's in a conversation. So you can get that for free there. It's on that link there as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. I do have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Facebook, all at Dani C. Muniz, my name. Thank you so much, Kaya and everyone. This has been such a great conversation.
Such a pleasure to have you here. Much appreciated, Dani. Okay, Lorna, can you bring us home?
I will as quick as I can, but the wonderful and inspiring thoughts presented by may I call you my sisters, because I certainly feel camaraderie and an alignment with you. The fact that Deborah talked about, we don't have to get rid of the conflicting messages. We can sit with them. We can feel them and experience them. Anne's mindfulness, I preach that to myself over and over and over. And Ellie's talk about meditation and EFT. And last but not least, Dani's focus on this self-talk. I love it that she talks to her ego. And in some respects, we could even see that as a affirmation. But probably the only other thing that I would add to this wonderful endings, and perhaps it's more of a beginnings for many of us, and that is the importance of our own self-care. We absolutely must, and not see it as a revolutionary act, but to see it as a ongoing part of the work and our care for others, that we absolutely take time on a daily basis in whatever way that that means for you, uh, to uh, to infuse yourself with the same caring and compassion that we infuse in others, whether it is our clientele or our family members. I'm a grandma, so you understand this is this infusing and caring of our children and our grandchildren is essential. But at the same time, we must see that self-care is way up there, on the top of the list, as a daily practice, as something that we must do, to care for ourselves so that we can care for others. And if you want to be in touch with me after this wonderful, wonderful afternoon, I'm leaving inspired. I will tell you, I am really inspired. You can get in touch with me at www.lornajhines.com. That's my website. And if you're interested in reading this book I recently published, it's called Straight Talk from a Wise Woman, Tears, Trauma, and a Healing Path, available on at Amazon and wherever you buy books. And to my wonderful, wonderful sisters, I hope I'm not doing something that doesn't feel comfortable for you. I hope it feels comfortable. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But to my sisters, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Much gratitude and love.
And likewise, Lorna, thank you for bringing your wisdom here, and everybody for contributing to this conversation. We explored a lot. We explored some essential things, like that truth doesn't need to be harsh to be powerful. We've explored how healing doesn't begin with answers. It actually begins with safety. Right? That's just, it's incredible. And also that real change happens when people feel seen, respected, and allowed to exist without their armor. There's so much that can be gotten from this conversation. And also we are, thanks to Deborah, invited into an experience where we can continue to experience what that is like. So following this conversation, as soon as we conclude, we're going to hop into a Zoom room, so you've got more interaction, and we will have an experience of what safety feels like in what Deborah calls the reset room. So Deborah, would you like to officially invite everyone in there as we continue on this journey together?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. You know, come as you are, and listen and or participate. It feels, I mean, everyone's participating, but you can either be a more quiet listening participant or a more active exploring participant. But all parts are welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. And the link is in the chat, just in case anyone is looking for it or missed it. We're going right into a Zoom room, and it is happening right now. So thank you all so much for being a part of this conversation and for honoring this moment, and for choosing to believe that a more compassionate way forward is not only possible, but it's already unfolding. So we're so grateful that you're here. And for those of you who wish to participate, see you in the next room. And for those of you who are choosing not to, that's okay too. Then bye for now.